The black swan life is an uncommon one. It's for every man or woman who is too rare to fit into the status quo, even if they have tried. It's about love, life, faith, and money in a way that honors our uniqueness in a world of conformity. I firmly believe that when any area of our lives goes into crisis, we must examine the relationship we have with that thing, place, or person to restore the balance that fuels recovery and prosperity. My name is Chengi. I am the founder of the Black Swan Relationship Academy, dating and relationship expert, life coach, mother, sister, auntie to every single one of the black swans in the world that need me to be that for them. Here on the Black Swan Life podcast, I believe wholeheartedly that relationships are life and life is relationship. For dating and relationship advice, follow Black Swan Relationship Academy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But for now, welcome, Black Swan. Let's glide into today's lake and swim. Okay, so today I have Coach Unique as usual as one of my guests, and today we're going to be talking. Coach Unique is the head coach for the Black Swan Relationship Academy and the Style Concierge. And today we're going to be talking about style itself and what that really means when we're looking at our body image and the images that we were brought up to believe about our bodies. And I can for sure say that even though I was raised in Africa where women's bottoms are big and their hips are wide, especially in Southern Africa, I was raised in a Western diet, waking up and Coach Unique and myself come from the same country. So we would have been brought up on the same diet of Western standards of beauty. And I didn't even know what that was until I turned 44, because that was my ideal standard of beauty. And that was actually emotionally, mentally wearing, because the Southern African body can only conform to that image by being extremely skinny. The only time I was ever with subtle curves was when I was a size 0. And at that point I had no hips, no bottom, still had a small waist, but I was really waif-like, like the images that I'd seen. And I loved it. And I remember going home to Zimbabwe and seeing my mom, and she was like, what the hell has happened to you? Because this is not a beauty standard for her generation. And I was saying to her, and she was like, well, maybe you can only date a white guy. You can't date a black man with that body. And I was like, you must be joking. And she was like, no, there isn't a black man that's going to want that. And obviously I thought she was old fashioned and crazy, because I felt really super hot. I felt the sexiest I'd ever felt. But I do remember feeling very weak. And I remember feeling kind of very
almost anemic, right?
Yeah, like it could push me over, because to sustain that I was literally on a permanent fast, and I didn't realize I was fasting then. When I kind of read a lot of these sort of fasting, kind of intermittent fasting, 72 hours kind of thing, I could go for days without eating and then maybe eat something like a biscuit. Or it wasn't deliberate, I was just going through a divorce at the time, so food didn't seem to be a priority. So I just kept losing so much weight. And I'd also discovered my sugar intolerance, so I'd chucked everything out that had sugar in it, which meant my appetite was at a 0. But I do definitely remember feeling really super sexy, but feeling very, very unhealthy at the same time. And getting to 40, throughout my 30s, and losing that kind of slimmer, more subtle curved body that I loved, and kind of developing those curves that I was born to have. And sort of going through a semi-crisis, because at this point I'm thinking, I've lost my beauty, I've lost my sex appeal, I've lost my confidence, because I've got these extra and additional layers. And now I look like those African aunties that I used to think, oh my God, they're so old. And really just meeting somebody who really celebrated my curves in a very explicit way. I think I had, dated and, a lot of guys, black and white, who really just enjoyed my curves, but had never really been as explicit about why they thought it was just so amazing, and really kind of painted a picture of, oh my God, you have the body that women are having surgery to copy, and I hadn't heard of BBLs and all of these things, not realizing that people are actually hoping, there's some women out there in the world hoping to achieve my natural body type. And so that was and he was a personal trainer. So coming from a person who was into fitness and really realizing that he's actually spending a lot of time helping women achieve my body shape with my curves, and that they pay him a lot of money and spend a lot of time and invest a lot of time and money to get, my kind of curves, was really kind of good for my self-esteem, and it made me really start to question, what did I learn that was the standard of beauty for me? And I realized that this had to do with kind of Western standards. And I have lived in the Western world for the majority of my life, really. I came to England when I was 18, and I'm now 44 now. So I've been in the Western world much, much longer. So, and obviously growing back home, the kind of Zimbabwean culture was Western, that was the ideal we're going for. So we haven't ever really been raised, we're really taught to value and cherish our body types. I think the elderly women just assumed we would, because they did. I remember my mom saying something. My mom would lose weight and she would be devastated because she was, in her mind, she's losing her beauty. And there I was thinking she's completely insane. So there's a lot of unlearning there, Coach Unique. Do you have a story around your body image and your curves?
Yeah, there's so many I could actually think of, and I think most of them, I think we had a conversation about this before. Like it had never really affected me that much until I came here. Until I came to the UK again. Like you, I've lived half my life in Zimbabwe and half my life here. So I came here when I was 21. And I remember after my divorce, just had my daughter, I lost so much weight, and I was a size 6'8", but still with subtle curves. I thought I would be happy then.
Yeah.
I honestly thought, oh my God, I could now just wear anything. But I remember looking at myself in the mirror and just looking at myself, like, you look frail.
Yeah.
You look unhealthy. You look like a shadow of yourself, almost. So I think in my head, I've always told myself that my body at its optimum is between a size 8, 10, 12, thereabouts.
Yeah.
But when it's at its best, my hip should be a 12, my bust an 8, and my waistline an 8, and my bust a 10.
Yeah.
So those are the proportions that I kind of always esteem to kind of get into.
Yeah.
And then again, when it comes to, especially with the world of dating, and you're saying like you met a gentleman who made you appreciate your curves more.
Yeah.
And I've noticed more so because I've dated more West African men. They tend to appreciate my curves a lot more. So I've grown to appreciate a lot more based on where they are accepted. Let's put it that way. To
and
them,
celebrated.
Kind of and celebrated. They almost marvel at it. I remember, funny enough, I was just thinking, there's a documentary that I watched recently where there's a village in Japan where it's literally big girls. When a girl becomes skinny, she thinks, oh my God, the world is over. And the parents tell her, you're not going to get married because you're skinny. And that's what we come from. That's what we come from, where if your parents sees you and you're skinny, they're thinking you're starving. They're thinking, but then the problem there is they never really taught us to actually accept our bodies. They never really taught us to love our bodies. It was always just a matter of, okay, you have this body type, you have this body shape. It was just assumed that you would accept it.
Yes. Yes.
It was never taught to us. And it's only coming here where we now start to think, oh, hang on a minute. And coming to think of it, I remember being in uni. This is how my smoking started.
Wow.
I was a late smoker. Started smoking in my 30s. So I went to uni quite late in life. But I wanted to fit in so much and not show my age, not show where I was from. And it was really a vain thing because all the conversations happened in the smoking room or in the smoking spot. And for me, that was a way of, one, keeping my weight really low as well as fitting in. And you're thinking, those are really all Western ideas. Those are all Western norms. And we say Western, but then there are other cultures that are not necessarily Western. There are spaces and places that maybe we just don't know of. Because I think culture plays a very big deal in how we think and how we feel about our bodies.
Absolutely. And the things that we have to kind of do to attain them. And I think, for me, the unlearning kicked in at that point. And I just thought to myself, my goodness, why did it take me 44 years to learn this? I mean, you
know.
know, and to learn it, I had to unlearn some things that I had truly believed, that number one, there is a beautiful body type. And you know, even the girls that I watch having BBLs, I think, what a shame, because like me, you think that there is a beauty type that is preferred above all else, simply because a certain group of women in this time and at this season have got on the big screen and made those curves acceptable, not realizing that there was a time when your body shape was the hottest body shape, and not realizing that everyone has a place in a space where their body type is celebrated. And you know, like you were saying, you know, look, West African men were the ones that appreciate our shape. You know, obviously Southern African men as well, but they're used to it in a way. Yeah, they see it everywhere.
If you really think about it, to them, that is the definition of beauty.
Yes.
That is what they grew up around.
Yeah.
Because I remember my boyfriend asking me this question, and he's like, so do you tell me that every woman in Zimbabwe is like this? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. That is the shape I grew up seeing. I was like, are you sure? And those men don't even like what, they see that every day. I'm like, yeah, to them it's normal. That is how a woman's body is supposed to be shaped. And in South Africa, even more so, like the rounded,
even more extreme.
Bigger. Yeah. Exactly. And then if you go to Botswana, they're even more, the hips are even wider and more extreme. And then if you look at it, Zimbabweans are normally a mix of both. Botswana, South Africa, and all the different surrounding regions. So that's why we end up having the body shape that we have, because it's not just exclusive to Ndebele girls. Shona girls have it too. It seems to be that kind of, and look at Kenyans as well. They have that same kind of similar, it's really Southern African type of thing.
Yes. And so you kind of realize, look, are you trying, how far can you go from your DNA without breaking your body? And, you know, I had to kind of think, okay, the whole idea that there's an ideal is problematic for me. You know, it's not served me. It has not, it has not brought me peace. And to be honest, the men that I am attracted to are attracted to my body shape. So it's not like I'm attracted to a guy who doesn't like, or the men that I'm attracted to don't like my body shape. You know, sometimes you can want people who don't want you. You know, the men that want me, whether they, and for me, English men, you know, men from different cultures and tribes who like me, like the fact that I'm actually curvy.
And you remember as well, you know, men, they choose with what they see.
Exactly.
So I guess it's that's where we can get that thing from, like, look, so they don't want to lose weight because of a man. They want to lose weight just for their own satisfaction. But again, is what has influenced that decision? What has made you think that you are not beautiful the way you are? Is because you've compared yourself based on a standard.
And here's the thing, you've just said something that I really like, and something that, again, I thought that I had to challenge, because again, there are these kind of ideas and paradigms and thoughts and beliefs that are being thrown out into the atmosphere. And this is this thought that, why should you do it for a man? My question is, why shouldn't you do it for a man? I mean, what is so inherently wrong with wanting to be your most attractive self so you can attract the mate that will be attracted to you? I think that wanting to do it for a man is as valid as doing it for yourself. Now, when I say a man, I'm not talking about a particular guy. Like, I like that guy so much, I'm prepared to change my body shape for him. I'm talking about, I want a relationship with somebody who adores my body, and my body is the way that it is. So I am going to take care of this body so that it continues to be attractive to the people that I want to attract into my life, right? And I feel like these are some of those unlearnings where we have made developing into a better person, whether it's emotionally, physically, spiritually, to be an attractive person to other people seems to be this damning thing, when in reality, we don't want to live alone. We don't want an experience in life when nobody chooses us. We don't want an experience in life where we're not desirable. But the question should really be, to what are we changing ourselves to? And for me, it's not about I'm changing myself to look like this Western ideal of a woman's beauty. I am literally changing myself to my most authentic standard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going back to original and taking great care of it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go to the gym. I decided that this idea that I need to be a size this or weigh this is problematic. You know, what is the weight that I am at my happiest and healthiest at? So if I go to the gym 3 times a week, which is what I do, sometimes more, if I eat healthy 80% of the time, and if I am happy,
yes,
what weight is that? Because that could be a 14 for me.
Yeah.
It could be a 12.
Yeah.
It could be an 8.
But that's the thing, though, is that why do we then attach weight to happiness? Like, should the two even have to exist together? It's like the thing. I suppose that that's me and my unlearning as well. It's like, why do I feel like I have to be like this to be happy? It's like happiness is an individual construct on its own, and you're losing weight and your body shape, your body height is a thing on its own. Because I remember this one thing, going back to my uni days, I think they influenced a lot of what I thought, and then I had to unlearn that again, as you do, because you go through different phases of wanting to fit in. There's also church culture when you want to fit in. There's our social circles where you want to fit in. I remember when there's this whole thing in fashion, I talk about the gaze. So anything that is built out there in the world is designed is because there's someone's eye that they're trying to attract, someone's gaze that they're trying to attract. The size 0 models are because it's being influenced by someone's gaze, by someone who's the buyer. So what the consumers have done is they've looked at the majority. Okay, who buys the most? It's normally between size 0 to size 12. That's why you will only find clothes that are size 0 to size 12. Designers have this thing, if you're this is actually going to step on some toes, and this is the truth of the fashion industry. If you really look at it, sizes, the reason they choose thick, thin models is because it's less fabric. It's economic. There's a lot less to design on it. But then if you start to go bigger, one, you're not going to attract as many people to buy into the product. So they stick to those norms. So it's all dictated by the people who are looking on and buying. So when you look at that gaze, it's like, then it's now influencing everybody else, because not everybody's going to be stick thin. I think I told you for a time when I was mortified. I went into a well-known high street, which is from the Netherlands with the red logo. I can't really name the name, but I was mortified when I came out. I felt fat. I couldn't find anything that fit me. It went up to size 22 for jeans.
Whoa.
And I couldn't find anything that fit me. Wow. And I was like, no, that can't be. I was miserable that whole day afterwards. And I went on to go and get more chocolate to make me feel fatter. And I had ice cream to make me feel fatter because I felt fat. And it just imbalanced me just a little bit. Then I had to remind myself that, no, hang on a minute. This is built for a certain particular type of demographic. Yeah. There's the whole falsifying of sizes, vanity matrix, vanity sizes. So it's all really built on certain gazes and norms that they want to perpetrate, which is not the real truth. Yeah. Because when you think, an everyday woman is going to have curves, an everyday woman is going to have boobs. An everyday woman is going to have bits and bobs and little things here and there. And I think goes back to saying, my personal belief is there is actually no perfect size 8. No. You can never have a perfect size 8, because that will mean you're having a 34 bust, 32 waist, and a 34 hip. Yeah. You can't find that. You're going to have a 34.5. You're going to have a 34 and a quarter, or you go 29 waist. So you're never going to have that perfect. And if you're doing that by sizes, then you're literally just telling the whole world that no, you're not enough, you don't fit in, which is really the narrative which makes advertising work, right? Because we're told you are not enough. So you need to come and get this so that you can be more enough. You need to lose this weight so that you can be enough. And going into that whole story of body image, and it's now been so tied to your identity as well, hasn't it? Because as Black women, we've grown up thinking, especially in the Western world, because there's this whole idea that because we're in the Western world now, we've got a whole demographic of men that we can attract. And I think I've been guilty of this as well. Like, okay, if I want to attract a white man, I'm going to have to put on some longer hair. I'm going to have to, like, do a little bit more makeup that is not the usual. I'm going to have to wear certain things that make me look slimmer. Whereas if I'm just myself and my beautiful self, I get approached more by Black Western African men who just think, oh my God, it's step out of heaven,
Exactly.
I'm like,
and this is where the unlearning comes in, I think, and also a lot of strength. And one of the things that I was talking about in the first episode was really how to unlearn, and understanding that your triggers will point you to some of the stuff that you need to unlearn. And I remember I was sharing this with you before we got online, that as I was going through my learning journey of learning to love my body, learning to accept my curves, over these last couple of months, etc., I saw this lovely girl, and she was very straight, boyish shape, no hips, definitely no bottom. And she had big boobs, and she would have been my dream body growing up. I would have thought, oh my God, if I could have no bottom. I remember standing in front of the mirror and thinking, if I could just get a knife, I would cut off my bottom, cut off my hips, and put everything in my boobs, because again, these were the body images that we believed were just utterly gorgeous. I remember going to modeling school, and again, everything was about having that body type. But when I look at how we were taught how to dress, it was to slim you down and narrow your curves and make them more subtle. And if you wear something baggy, you can cover. There was this look I wore a lot, which was the layered look, because it meant you could cover all your curves and still have that boyish straight body. And everything around fashion, around styling, was all about slimming you down and getting rid of your curves. And I was watching this woman, and we were in the gym, and I was kind of looking at her, and something happened in my mind. My mind thought, how ugly is that? Wow. Right. And whenever I have a reaction and I'm triggered, or have a very violent reaction or visceral reaction to something I'm seeing, or something somebody said, I know that that's about my shadow. That's about me. It's not about this poor lovely girl. It's about me. So, I kind of went home and I kind of thought, so Chengi, what was that about, girl? What was that about? Because it was mean. Yeah, it was mean and bitchy. And we all have a bitch in us, and we all have mean in us, but I don't like that part of me. And some people sit well with it, but I was like, that came out of Satan's throne, So, so I was like, okay, let's work through this. And I realized that I had a belief that to be beautiful, I need to be better looking than someone else. For my shape to be beautiful, it had to be better than someone else. It had to be beautiful in comparison to. It had to be beautiful. And of course, I was angry because of this body type that I'd been wanting for so long and feeling duped for 44 years, that I just wasted my curves, hid my curves, starved myself to that, to get rid of these curves that, I was in the gym, and my son was saying to me, Mom, actually, to be honest with you, everywhere we go, I just see men staring at you. He's like, you don't know this, but they just stare at you. He's like, we got into the gym, and all these men were like, I was just like, oh my God, I can't deal. Right. And I was thinking, wow, I have that body shape that men want to look at. So now I'm feeling superior. And I realized, Chengi, you have an unlearning here. You have an opportunity to unlearn, because the bottom line is, as long as your beauty depends on another woman being less beautiful, you still haven't healed.
And isn't that what they teach us anyway, that for you to be deemed as beautiful, there has to be someone else who doesn't fit that category. And then
Yeah.
you become superior because you're now in this category
Yeah.
over here, you know, and you've left the other side.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I honestly thought I was going to feel beautiful when I'd lost all that weight.
Yeah.
But that was at my worst time. That's when I felt even I don't even think it even compares to how I felt when I went into the store and I felt fat. It was, I just looked unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it was that, and I think for me, that was my pivotal point. Like, I don't think I've ever been that skinny ever again.
Yeah.
But there is still something in me that sometimes thinks, yeah, maybe you'd look prettier if you were skinnier. You would look
Yeah.
prettier if you were this. And it's all of that unlearning, that's what we've been taught
Yeah.
to. For you to even achieve, you have to be better than.
Yeah.
Because that's a mindset that
Absolutely.
even in the competition for men to date, it's always, well, how do you stand out from other women? And we perpetrate competition rather than accepting that, you know what, I only would need one guy, right? So
Yeah.
that's what one man who will love me with all
And there
my
are billions
bumps
of
and
them.
lumps. I know, exactly. And especially now that our shape is out there in the world.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't before, it's just
Yeah.
that it's things are a lot more acceptable. But then what I love about how this, I know they call it all new age and everything, but what I love about where the world is evolving to is acceptance.
Yeah.
Accepting yourself for everything. It is hard to
Yeah.
show up on camera with no makeup. It's hard to show up anywhere nowadays with no makeup because we've gone to an extent where they even question the real now. Even when you have your real hair, when you have your real lashes, when you have your real brows, they now question that because we've just gone too far to the other side.
Yeah.
And it's now kind of, it's almost like an unpeeling, an unlearning, an unveiling of, let's go back to just accepting that, you know what,
Absolutely.
you can be pitch black, dark, you can be bleak over here and you could be yellow bone over here. There's literally no difference. You are in your own sphere of acceptance and accept ourselves with just the bodies that we live in.
Absolutely. Something you said earlier about why can't happiness be about happiness and body image about body image. And I think that's something that's really worth exploring because I think we were taught, and this is something that we all need to unlearn. And I really believe that an unlearning process will go on for life because you can't have been programmed for 44 years or 45 years or 55 years or 65 years or whatever length of time to think a certain way and to hold a certain worldview. And then overnight, you know, think different. I think there's always going to be a part of us that thinks, but if I just lost a little bit extra weight, I might be pretty, I might be happier.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part where we were taught that happiness is a consequence of fitting in and belonging.
Yes.
And only when you fit in and belong in your community, your culture, your whatever, then you're going to be happy. But really belonging, albeit a natural protocol, is a safety protocol. We want to belong so we can feel safe. But happiness is something that cannot be attached, because something that you said, I remember losing all of that weight and being slim. And it happened a few times. Anyone who's ever been on a try and lose your curves journey, and I'm sure there are many, has been through these moments where they're super skinny, they go on this diet and it works and they feel great. And I remember in that moment thinking, I'm just not happier than I was when I was bigger. Like my happiness is exactly the same. Maybe my confidence is a bit better. Maybe I'm having a little bit more fun with my clothes and what I can and cannot wear. And it's cool to feel like you belong. But when I really checked in with my happy meter, it was precisely where it was before.
Yeah.
I was no more happier being slim. And I'm not happier being bigger or curvier. Because I think what I am when I'm in my more authentic body shape is safe and comfortable.
Yes.
And that matters too. Yeah. But if I'm going to be happy, that's to do with the things I love to do, the things that make me smile, the people that make me smile, the interactions I love to have, the little, happiness is a different bag. It's something that I actually have control over. It's not something that, you know, goes through hormonal changes and decides what it's going to look like. Exactly. Happiness is really something that is mine to keep. And I think when you have that mindset, and many of us do, that this will make me happy, being slimmer will make me happy, being lighter skinned will make me happy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember talking to you last night and we were talking about skin tone. I have lost, like, I am like probably 10 shades lighter now than I was when I was growing up. I was a dark little creature. And I loved it because my mom and my sisters made it seem as if I was the prettiest thing that's ever walked on the planet because I was so dark. And it was almost because I am dark. And I think subconsciously they knew that they had to groom me to be confident about the way I looked, because I was growing up in a culture where being dark was naturally equally to ugly. You know, it doesn't really matter whether your face is cute or symmetrical or pretty. You know, if in that time, if you were dark like I was, then no one would even bother looking in your face. They would just be like, she's one of the ugly ones. But they really put all of that confidence in me that I was cute and I was pretty, and, you know, so much so that my energy created so much attention towards me that, you know, boys liked me because I was this confident, dark-skinned girl. Came to England, and obviously living in this climate, I lost a lot of my color.
You lost your
I lost my beauty at the time. You know, I couldn't believe it. I was so angry. You know, I remember going to work. I was working in makeup in Selfridges at the time, and I would wear my makeup 4 shades darker, and I'd have this line on my jaw and try and blend it in. But then my chest, it was ridiculous. And I would wear only the very darkest shades. And my colleagues were like, what are you doing? I was like, this is my color. I was convinced it was my color. And they were like, no, babes, it's not your color. You need to really go at least 4 shades lighter. And I felt bereft. I felt like, that's it. I've lost it. I'm not pretty anymore. And then you kind of look and think, but there are all these other narratives that people are living under, these narratives. And the thing is, with beauty, the way it changes, evolves within ourselves. You know, my happiness was always going to be at the mercy of the rest of the world, right? True. And, you know, so it really kind of goes back down to really learning. And another thing as well is, I think, like you said earlier, our parents didn't think to teach us how to think about our beauty. And I wonder how many of us as parents have taught our children how to think about their body image.
I'm sure it's all of us, haven't we? Because, like I said, we are only really now consciously unlearning all of these narratives. And we all already have teenage sons and daughters in our care. So if you really think about it, like I remember the time you were like, oh, your daughter's a splitting image of you. And because that's the age that they're watching, I don't even have to tell her anything anymore. It's, they're watching and they're picking it up and they're forming their identity based on that. And it's really only taken my daughter at times to tell me that, oh my God, your mommy, you have a beautiful body. And in my head, I'm like, you sure you don't think I'm just an old mom? Like, I'm just old. Like, oh God, sagging everywhere. And to them, it's like that is their image of beauty. And it only becomes their image of beauty when we have started to accept ourselves. Because it's only recently when I start to accept myself, when I start to wear my actual size and do the separates and be okay with having a little cellulite, you know, only a little bit, still working on that one. And it's because they're seeing that. And you have to kind of wonder how many parents are even comfortable in showing themselves to their children. How many parents or how many aunties, because most of the time they end up being the aunties that you see this from. It's never really the parents, because we get so stuck in our little roles and our identities of, again, what African parents used to look like. So I remember growing up and someone my age and my body type was like an auntie. Auntie, like, you know, heavy set auntie. And then there are the round aunties who are the aunties, like those were the aunties. Whereas if I look at myself now, I'm a lot more, I guess I'm a lot more fashionable. I think I'm a lot more hip. So I look at myself as a rich auntie, you know, the one who's got the vibes. But at the same time, I'm still identifying as some auntie of some kind. And that is really based on my age and my body image. Because if I was a lot slimmer, I know in my head, I would feel like, oh, and you can just call me sister so-and-so. It's not auntie, you know.
I know you always
And
refer
it's a
to
touch
yourself
and
as auntie, auntie. And for me, it's always felt like an aging thing.
yeah.
You know, when I cut my hair, my son was like, "You look like one of those Nigerian aunties, mom." I did not take that well.
No, no.
And, you know, for any Nigerians watching, it's just my son. He's Nigerian himself, so he can say that. His dad is Nigerian. But it was
Mm,
kind of this, he didn't mean it in a bad way, but he was saying, "You're looking older, a little bit
yeah.
naff," you know. So I every time you say, "Oh, I'm a rich," I'm like, the fact that you end that sentence with auntie at the end is problematic for me. Because that's when I'm feeling not so pretty, I'm like, oh God, I look an auntie, you know. But with that being said, I love being an auntie. I love being an auntie to my nieces, but I've always felt like I'm that cool auntie, right? The young looking cool auntie. But
Yes.
like you said, you look at yourself and you look in the mirror and you think, I look like that auntie of mine when I
Yeah.
was growing up with those,
Yeah.
you know, the ones I thought was an auntie,
Mm.
you know. So I'm thinking, am I losing the plot? You know, but I think one of the things I've also learned, especially working with you, is that really comes down to how you groom your body.
Yeah.
Because I find that when I dress my body different from the way my aunties dress their bodies, it's still the same shape, but it sends out a different signal.
Exactly. And like just how the whole thing of energy and signals. And I think there's a video I did some time back about how your clothing sends out signals.
Yes.
Everything we are taught is all we see, visualize is through we're sending out a signal of some sort.
Mm.
And how you then encapsulate that, like say, just like in my head right now, I'm thinking of aspirin. There's a certain way and shape that aspirin is always printed, and it doesn't matter what country you go to, this
Yeah.
is how you know this is aspirin. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Nurofen comes in a little capsule. This
Mm-hmm.
is how you know this is what it is. Amoxicillin comes in, I think it was like an orange and a deeper burgundy
Yeah.
tablet. This is how it comes in this shape. So
Mm-hmm.
again, as much as you want to accept your body shape, you also have to understand what signals is it sending out? What signal
Yes.
is your clothing sending out? Because
Yes.
what we then do as the aunties, what we do is we wear the oversized, I think you mentioned it before, you wear the oversized clothes to kind of cover up to make sure that it looks a bit more boyish. But the signal that is sending out is I'm uncomfortable with my body shape, so I'm
Yes.
going to cover it up, which
Yes.
then says to everyone you're hiding,
And those
obviously.
aunties knew something that we didn't know.
Mm,
Our aunties knew that their curves were highly sexual.
yeah.
And that's why they dressed them down
Yeah.
because they were
Not even knew, they
aware.
were perceived that way, isn't it? Because that was the culture and the setting as
Because they
well.
knew, you see, the things with older people and the people that have gone
Mm,
before us, they know things that they neglect to pass down because
yes.
they assume we're going to pick it up, we're going to catch it in the atmosphere.
Mm,
And one of the
mm,
things I found about wearing my body out, when I walk around in jeans and my behind is out there and my small waist and that whole kind of hip situation,
mm-hmm.
the energy I am subconsciously putting out is so highly sexual because I
Yeah.
really feel like certain body types just scream sexual.
Mm-hmm.
Some scream elegant, some
Yeah.
scream decent girl, depending on your body shape. But there's something about being uber curvy that really, and I'm sure there's probably an explanation biologically,
Yeah.
evolutionarily about wide hips and small waist. And I think I was reading
Exactly.
some research about that being the desired body
Yeah.
type, the
For
proportions rather than the
birth.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah, for birthing and fertility and all of those things. So I
Yeah.
think the energy signature from being super curvy, and I think that our aunties knew it, and because they had to be decent, they had to tame that side
Mm,
of themselves and wear the big shirts that covered the hips and covered the
mm.
legs. I
The
remember my
jackets.
exactly. I remember my PT. He's a black Jamaican guy, and he said, my personal trainer. He said, his first child is with an English lady. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I said, oh no, I said, I'd find you a girl and I can tell that you're multicultural, like you'll go for anything. He's like, no, no, no. I just did that because I was a little boy and I didn't really, it was like whatever's on offer kind of
Mm,
thing. He said, but I really do prefer curves. So I was like, oh, okay, well, if you did, why didn't you is like, because Black women at that time when I was growing, because he's in his 60s, so when I was growing up, Black women didn't dress the way you guys dress now.
Yeah.
And that sort of took me back to the aunties. They were wearing the big shirts, the 2 pieces or the 3 pieces that covered everything, and the pleated skirt that would be underneath it and, cover up to the ankles. And the younger girls were being dressed that way as well. So, Black men kind of couldn't see the curves until obviously we changed the way we were dressing. And for me, it's always been, I remember when we did the LEEKHAYA shoot, the first one, and we were really going for the sort of that elegance. And you said something to me. You said you wanted to create a line where we were not being overly sexualized because we're curvy. And that is also the risk of what even now in the 21st century we have to face, is being overly sexualized. Because the Beyoncés are out there with the curves, and the Jennifer Lopez.
I was gonna say it's not even that. It's not even that, because if you really look, if you scroll through TikTok, it's bum shakings, and that is what is being perpetrated out there. So people will ask. I remember a friend of mine asking me. I was actually at a concert over the weekend, and one of the coaches actually asked me, because there's some girls doing some booty shaking, and I was just saying, look, mine does not know how to do that. I've got the equipment, but it has no idea
how to move like that.
How to move like that. I would have to go for lesson 101 on how to twerk when it comes to things like that, because yes, I may have the shape, but the tools don't work like that.
Exactly.
And because this is how this it's overly sexualized. Advertising overly sexualized. So again, like you're saying, we are still having to kind of really be mindful of what signal you're sending out.
Absolutely.
Which is annoying, because you still want to express yourself, but you also have to be very mindful of the signal that other people are reading as well.
Absolutely. And that's why I loved that collection, because it was still enhancing curves, but it still had a respect for it. It still had that sense of, but I'm still a lady. People pay attention. I'm still a lady, and so it's kind of another unlearning is it doesn't I used to feel like there was only one way or the other. You show it or you hide it. Enhancing it was not a good idea. I remember you kind of forcing me to wear those shorts, and I was like, I don't want to do it.
And the skirts.
And the skirt. I was like, oh, Unique and I would go on these photo shoots, and would spend half the time with me doing no,
and then I'll rush it up a little bit so she shows a bit of knee.
And actually, there was a girl that went on my Instagram and said, something to the effect of, you've ruined your brand, you and your big, thick thighs. Yes, I actually deleted it, because I don't keep bad energy on my channel. I just don't keep it in my space. But that's what she said. She actually said, you're now doing these fashion shoots with this unknown designer. With your big fat thighs. So obviously my thighs triggered her. And it's so funny, because she was the voice I was so very afraid of. She pretty much vocalized the thing I was most afraid of when you were rouging my skirt, or when I was wearing those shorts. I was thinking, everybody is thinking, put away those big fat thighs. And this girl wants to put me out here in these streets. And guess what? She came and said that. And do you know, thank goodness for the work we do on ourselves as coaches and as people. Because it was like water off a duck's back. It literally didn't even compute. And the reason for it is, for the first time, and this is why I love LEEKHAYA, and we'll talk about it till the day I die. For the first time, wearing those shorts and wearing those outfits, for the first time, the way I was dressed, I could see the balance. I could see a sexy, curvy, elegant woman. And I'd never seen that.
And it's not
on television
too much either.
No.
It's not trying to be all, plastered in spank, so that you can literally be a little bit more curvy. It's effortless.
It was just, that's you. It's elegant. And yes, your thighs are thick, but thank God, because we can't all have thin thighs, but
thick thighs save
lives.
All the time.
Exactly. And, you know, it was really, sometimes I feel like God does, okay, face your worst fear.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she was vocalizing what maybe other people were thinking. Who knows how many other people were thinking that God is what I wear thick thighs. But they were all suffering from the thing I had to unlearn.
Yeah.
Chengi's thighs don't have to be slim for yours to be beautiful. My thighs don't have to be big, fat, thick thighs. You don't have to reflect on my body with so much hate for you to love yours.
Exactly.
Right? You could have slimmer thighs. You can love your slim thighs. And there's a whole plethora of men and women who love and who'd want to have your body shape or be with a woman with your body shape. But we're all perpetuating this unlearning that she has to be ugly for me to be pretty. She has to have big, fat, thick thighs for me to love my slim ones. Right.
And that's the thing. I guess you had actually burst her bubble of no, but then if you're going to be a YouTube celebrity, if you're going to be a celebrity, you need to have this body shape. And then there you go, coming along, Chengi. Now you're showing a little bit of leg. Now you're showing wearing some shorts and you still look elegant. You have burst that image of what she thought was beautiful.
Yes. And I've triggered her because she feels like if you perpetuate those thick thighs as the new beautiful, then I'm going to be left out here in the cold. I mean, I have no idea what her thighs look like. I literally saw the comment and I just deleted it. And I thought, well, never mind. But I know that I triggered her. And usually when we trigger, it speaks to our own shadow, parts of ourselves we are not, accepting. This is why to unlearn, we need to pay attention to those triggers. And in the same way as I was looking at that girl with no bottom, no hips, well, she had them, but very small. Looking at her and thinking, ew, that was me being triggered. That was me like, okay, let me go and work on that. Because if I see, and I used to have the same visceral effect with girls that were oversized, really big. I was like, please stop trying to shove this overweight nonsense down our throat. She's unhealthy, okay? Like I would have these kind of bitchy comments in my head. But I think in truth, I was just jealous that she got to love her body and show it off. That would get on my nerves. And I had to do the shadow work and think, why does it bother you that she's living her best life at a size 26? Okay.
That's the question, isn't it? Like, why does it bother us so much?
If she dies, that's her bag.
That is her choice, right? And not necessarily her choice to die. No, that's not bad.
No.
It's
what I mean is
to live her life the way she wants to live it and enjoy it. Because we are now learning that she is happy the way she is.
Yes.
And she's living her best and fullest life.
And even if she's not happy, is she supposed to go and jump off a bridge because you don't think she's fit? Like I had to question myself and say, okay, so should this woman who is a size 30, 40, 100, whatever, I'm just exaggerating, should she now go and stand and jump off a bridge and cry, I am unworthy? Or is she to walk around with all of us screaming, unclean, unclean? I have to bring balance to this conversation because I really believe that there is a place called health. But I believe that even that standard, like the same gentleman I was telling you about who was a personal trainer, my partner, we were sitting at a table with another lady and she, looking at her, would probably be a natural size 8.
Yeah.
And she was quite tall. And we're having a chat. And then she turned around to him and said, oh, you never guess what? I went to the doctors and they said I'm obese because my BMI is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So he said, that's a whole load of nonsense. You can't measure health on that alone because, and he went into the kind of explanation of it, but it really dropped because I thought if I saw her on the street, I would naturally assume she's the healthiest, fittest human on the planet. Yes, she works out and she eats healthy. She's a very clean eater, but even the medical profession is calling her obese. Now they would probably call me overly highly obese. I don't know, but I had to sort of look at, and then I was following this lady. I think she's a model for Jay Bolin. She's like fair skinned and bald headed. And I've been following her and really watching her narrative. First, because she triggered me. And then secondly, because I really wanted to understand and heal myself. And she was talking about a health condition that she has that means that she can't lose weight. But she showed herself in the gym. She eats clean. But this is her body shape, right? And she's learning to accept it. And she's out here. And I thought to myself, but I want to be her. I don't necessarily want to be her size, but I want to be her. I want to be a woman that loves the skin I'm in. And the way that I go about that is to give her permission to be her, so that I can give myself permission to be me. Because when I give myself permission to be me, I can give everyone permission to be who they are. And I believe that is a conversation that will go on for a good 10 years, maybe 100.
Maybe more.
Maybe more. Because one day, you know, the body image will shift, you know, because guess what? It's all trends. Because the Beyoncés and the whoever's that it kind of promoted, the Kardashians are gonna one day be old grannies. They'll be aunties one day, and there'll be a new body type that we must all kind of, you know, hail. So I believe that it's a conversation that will last a lifetime and comes with so much unlearning. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we close this podcast?
No, I just think this has really been one of those conversations that really needs a little bit more airtime. It needs a little bit more conversation. And it's just that whole narrative of acceptance and the whole knowing that you don't have to be this to be happy, or we don't have to be that to be happy. I guess that's really my takeaway, even just from this, is realizing how many narratives I've built around just body shape, and whether is it body dysmorphia or body anything or body shaming. I guess that's the key thing, acceptance, right?
Absolutely.
And really looking into, okay, what do I have to unlearn? And the fact that each time, I love what you said about each time you're triggered, you look into it. You constantly look into your triggers, because they're the ones that help you do the unlearning, because whatever you've learned is what is causing you to feel that uncomfortable. So that honestly, today's conversation has been amazing, but I know we always have amazing conversations anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah.
So here's to unlearning whatever we're taught about our body types, whether it gives us a superiority complex or an inferiority complex. The fact that there's a complex at the end of those two words means, Houston, we have a problem. You know, so I really believe that we need to all check ourselves and think to ourselves, okay, there's so much I need to learn, but first, what do I have to unlearn about my body, and where did I learn it, and how did I learn it, and what about what I've learned can be thrown away, what must be kept? Because you don't want to throw away the baby with the bathwater. But, you know, freedom participates with happiness really, really well. The freedom to be who you are, the freedom to be authentic. So I hope that we have been able to learn some unlearnings, that we can begin to process our own body image, body type, and fashion and style trends on, so we can live the Black Swan life. Until next time, we'll see you on our next podcast. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Black Swan Life podcast and joining myself and my guests here. And do not forget to go to the BlackSwanRelationshipAcademy.com for any of your relationship needs, married or single. We're here for you to support you. My coaches and I will be happy to. And of course, follow us on YouTube, Black Swan Relationship Academy, Instagram, Facebook. You will find Black Swan Relationship Academy on all of your social handles. And we will love to continue this conversation. In the meantime, my darlings, do take care of you. Love you lots. Bye-bye now.